Hello, welcome to the second episode of the Cypress tutorial series. In this tutorial we are going to discuss about how we can write tests in Cypress and organize tests. Please subscribe and like this channel if you like to receive more nice videos in future. So, let's open the Cypress project we created in the previous video by dragging the folder into Visual Studio Code. Then expand the Cypress folder in the project. Now we can create a new folder in Integration folder to organize our tests. Click on Integration folder and click on the new folder icon to create the folder. Let's call it Search. To create a new folder inside, either you can right-click and select New Folder or click on New File icon. Let's name the file as search.spec.js. .spec.js is the file format that we use for Cypress tests. This format helps Cypress to identify test files. Before start writing a test, let's try to identify the components of a Cypress test suite. So first one is describe. Describe can be used like a test suite or a group of test. IT denotes the test in Cypress. It helps for the human understanding and the readability of the code. So we can have multiple its in a describe and multiple describes in a describe. Other things we need are, visit, which navigates to the given URL. Web elements, which you can identify using CSS selectors. If you are not very familiar with CSS selectors, please go to the description to find the CSS selectors tutorial that I created some time back. Or just go to the channel and find the CSS selector tutorial. Then we can do some actions like, type, click kind of, on the elements we found. And finally we can do assertions to validate the behavior. Cypress was developed using specially, Mocha and Shy. Describe and it have come from Mocha, and assertions have come from Chai JavaScript library. Now, let's see the format of describe function. It accepts a string as the first parameter where we can provide the test group name. The second parameter is a function and let's use the arrow function. Okay, inside the describe, you can define another describe, or a test which is denoted by IT. Then let's write a test using IT, and it has a similar format. It accepts a string as the first parameter where we can provide the test name. Next parameter is a callback function which we are gonna write the implementation of the test. Let's use the arrow function here as well. Let's create another test by copying the first. And you can change the name. All the functions defined in Cypress should be used with CY. CY can be considered as Cypress itself, or let's say CY is the Cypress object. CY.visit function navigates to the given URL. CY.get function accepts the CSS selector of the element we are going to use. When you use the get function, it returns the web element. So then you can perform the action on the element using a Cypress function like type or click. Same way, you can find the element using get function and do the assertion. As I mentioned earlier, assertion can be done using should function or expect function, which is coming from Chai assertion library. Okay, now let's do the real testing. Go to google.com and search for JavaScript. So, assume my test would be, search for JavaScript and validate the result comes in the right pane. Let's update our test. Copy the URL and paste in the visit function. Now it is time to find the CSS selector for the search field. Inspect the element and find the unique attribute of the element. Please follow my CSS selector tutorial if you are not familiar in locating elements using CSS selector. Then pass the selector to get function. Then pass the text, JavaScript to type method. Now let's try to find the element that we are gonna assert. You can use Console tab to test the CSS selector. Let's verify that the text contained in the element. That should be JavaScript. Let's tidy up the code a little bit. Open the terminal in Visual Studio Code and type npm run open. Execute that command opens the Cypress test runner. Then go to Search folder in the Cypress runner, and click on search.spec file. It will open the browser and start executing the test. Look at the left pane, you can see the Cypress functions you added to the test are executing. And, you can see all the API calls that the front end makes to the server. Let's discuss more about API calls in mocking the response and routing tutorial. Oh, no, the test is failing. Let's have a closer look. The error says, it cannot identify the text that we are gonna validate. So, the problem is we just type the text, but do not click on the search button, or press enter. We have two options. Either we can find a locator for Google search button, or we can simulate press enter button in Cypress. So here, I would like to simulate press enter button. Then, what you can do is, type enter within curly braces in the end of the string you are typing. Here we go. I will tidy up the locator of the text that we are going to validate. Then I will update the locator in the code. Other nice thing here is the test starts executing when we change something in the test code. Now you can the assertion is passed. And you can make a simple change to make the test fail and see the error. I am going to duplicate the test. And instead of repeating cy.visit, we can move that to before each function, which is executed before each test. You can avoid some repetition using Cypress hooks. Before each is one of the Cypress hooks, and that is running before each test. You can use after each, before and after kind of hooks to your tests well. Now let's try to use expect library instead of using should library. Instead of using should, we can use then keyword and use an arrow function with a parameter called a to hold the element. Then you can use expect function and provide the element and the text to be validated. While you are implementing your test, you can use skip and only keywords easily maintain the execution of your tests. Only executes only a particular test. Skip doesn't execute the particular test. But let's talk about how we can run the tests conditionally in a later tutorial. You can play around with only and skip. Let's discuss other cool features in Cypress in next tutorials. Please do not forget to subscribe the channel if you haven't done yet. Then see you in the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.